Back here in Athens as we get started in the second quarter. 11-0, the Ohio Bobcats. They have it at the 10-yard line. First down. Ouellette. He's got daylight. He's going to get the edge, and he's got the touchdown. A.J. Ouellette. Such a big part of the Ohio offense. Missed last year with an injury. Rourke on the keeper again, trying to get behind a block. Gets away from a tackler and into the end zone. Great elusiveness by Nathan Rourke. Rourke wants to throw to the end zone. Has a man. It's the tight end, Troy Mangin. Touchdown, Ohio.
Il ne reste que quelques minutes à jouer. Les Bobcats de l'Ohio mènent largement et vont s'imposer. Le coach décide alors de donner du temps de jeu à ses remplaçants. L'occasion pour le numéro 79 de monter au jeu. Le 79, c'est Kyle Kuhar. Et c'est lui que nous allons suivre dans ce reportage.
My name is Kyle Kuhar. I'm a redshirt junior at Ohio University. I'm on the football team, and I'm majoring in sports management and marketing, and that's about it.
Cela fait maintenant 3 ans que Kyle a intégré la Ohio University. Il jouait déjà au football en secondaire et à 16 ans seulement, ses performances avaient déjà attiré l'œil des recruteurs de l'université. Une fois ses humanités terminées, Kyle a donc accepté l'offre de l'université et rejoint les Bobcats de l'Ohio. Son physique impressionnant, 1,95 m pour 135 kg, lui permet d'évoluer au poste d'offensive line. À cette position, Kyle ne touche jamais le ballon. Son seul objectif est de protéger son meneur de jeu, le quarterback. Des étudiants sportifs comme Kyle, il y en a beaucoup, plus d'un demi-million. Et tous font partie de la ligue universitaire, la NCAA. La NCAA, c'est 90 championnats, 24 sports, du football américain au basketball en passant par le tennis et la natation. Dès 18 ans, les étudiants jouent pour une université en échange d'une bourse. Sa valeur, de 20 000 à presque 40 000 euros. Mais la NCAA, c'est surtout le chemin le plus court vers le monde professionnel. Les meilleurs jeunes sont recrutés dans les plus grands championnats sportifs américains. Résultat, le niveau sportif de la Ligue est élevé. 40 heures d'entraînement par semaine, des infrastructures dignes des plus grands clubs et des stades de 100 000 places, pleins, chaque semaine. Sur le terrain, la concurrence est rude. Des rivalités historiques sont même nées entre certaines équipes.
We play this school up north next in 65 days, 17 hours, 8 minutes, 19 seconds.
La Ligue est extrêmement populaire. Un Américain sur 2 s'intéresse au sport universitaire. Du coup, les matchs sont surmédiatisés, télévision, radio, presse, des émissions en prime time leur sont même consacrées.
And we will, Buckeyes 0-5-1 at home all time against non-conference.
Une couverture nationale qui fait de ces jeunes de 18 à 25 ans de véritables stars. Pour l'université, le sport est essentiel. Il fidélise les anciens, attire les étudiants de demain, mais surtout le principal revenu financier de l'université, ce sont les recettes liées au sport. Il faut donc faire de bons résultats, gagner des titres à tout prix, avec les dérives que cela entraîne.
The amount of money in college football now makes it so it becomes somewhat difficult, and they kind of switch those roles, that they're an athlete first and a student second.
Academic fraud cases and things to keep athletes eligible because the reward of the money, the reward of winning, and what you see at Ohio State or Alabama, the hundreds of thousands of people that are there in attendance and the millions that are watching on TV, what matters the most is winning and generating that revenue, and that's really the big issue.
Et c'est à la salle de musculation que nous retrouvons
Go
Kyle.
ahead. Focus. Let's go. 1, 2. Come on, breathe. 3. Come on, 2 more. Breathe. Come on, 1 more. Let's go. You got it. It's all you. Joe, you were cold. Why would you say that?
We come in here 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Always 9 a.m. or sometime earlier?
We can come in at either 7, 9, or 11. And if we can't do it at those times, we can come in at after practice or something. But I think it's a lot easier to get it at this time, you know. It's just so we don't have to be we're really already tired after practice. So it's nice not to do that. So it's all good. All right, Marsh, ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Just focus on it. Let's go.
Oh, okay, Marsh. Shut up, Joe. Okay, Marsh.
Come on, Marshall.
Put him the belt, man. Straight power.
Let's go.
3, 2, 1.
Let's go. It's easy. Let's go.
Short arms, go.
Simple. One more. Attaboy. We lift for an hour, 3 days a week, and then practice and meetings 4 hours a week, 4 hours every day. So I'm not good at math, so I can't do the math right now, but it's up there. It's a lot of time.
And do you think that's a lot of time compared to your academic schedule?
They're both evenly spread out in terms of how much we go to them. So I guess it's evenly spread out. But I don't know, I feel like I spend more time here than in class or anything like that. I'm gonna use this for dumbbell lunch. I only have class maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, and we have football 4 hours every day. If not, and some days we have this too, so that's a lot more time too.
All right, Kyle, get it.
Bobcats on 3, 1, 2, 3. Bobcats!
Une fois l'entraînement musculaire terminé, Kyle prend la direction du campus avec au programme 2 heures de cours.
I have this class right now with Dr. Ridpath at 10:45 to 11:40. Then I get a nice hour-long break for lunch, and then after that I have a class at 12:55. So I only have 2 classes each day, so it's not too bad. This is my first class, and it's with Dr. Ridpath, so 10:45. It's all good.
And you have 2 classes per day?
I do. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I have a class at 10:45, and then I also have one at 12:55, so I get a nice break in between those classes to get lunch or something like that. Then Tuesday, Thursday, I have it from 9 to 11:50, so I get a break between practice and those classes to get lunch too.
And do you ever feel just after practicing early in the morning, it's like the second day for you, you go from sports to class, from class to sports?
It's not that big of a transition. It actually kind of helps me to lift in the morning because it actually wakes me up a bit, and so I'm more prepared for class and everything. And then going to football from class is not that bad either. It's not too bad. Oh yeah, we can go in. Yep.
I got an email from the careers.
Do you guys want me to sit anywhere specific or? All right, I think.
We have guests today. Smile. You're on camera.
Sorry, go for it.
What is this?
Just, it's nothing.
You're a movie star. That's what it is.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you look great. Great. So.
Let's go.
Look natural.
I'm acting. I'm trying to.
Tough, isn't it?
I'm trying to as best as I can.
Ici, durant 1 heure, il va parler de sport. Le thème du jour, comment gérer une équipe sportive lorsqu'elle est éclaboussée par un scandale. Kyle est attentif, il participe, prend la parole. Le jeune garçon est conscient de l'importance d'assister aux cours.
I try not to skip class as much as I can. I barely ever skip class, but I know there's a lot of kids that, I mean, I'm not saying I've never skipped a class. I have definitely skipped a class because I've been tired. That happens a lot though. Like right after football, the last thing on our minds is, oh, we got to go to class now. Like what we would like to do is like go get breakfast, relax, go take a nap or something. But you can't just blow off class. Football interfered with the class, and I have to take. Yeah, like right now, every week almost. Like we travel, so. We have an excused absence where it lets us, like even this week too, like Friday, I'm not going to be able to be in Dr. Ridpath's class because we're leaving at 8 a.m.
Et lorsque Kyle prévient son professeur de son absence, ce dernier ne semble pas surpris et se montre très compréhensif.
Yeah, I know. So I know that. And I'll make sure that somehow, somewhere over the weekend, you guys know what to watch.
Retour au stade. C'est là que Kyle passe son temps de midi. Dans le local vidéo, il analyse l'adversaire du week-end, décrypte ses stratégies, le positionnement de son vis-à-vis, de quoi lui permettre d'anticiper ses mouvements afin d'être le plus performant possible. Une préparation identique à celle des équipes professionnelles. Cette séance vidéo, Kyle l'a fait avant certaines rencontres, souvent les plus importantes. Mais tous les jours, une séance collective obligatoire est organisée durant 1 heure, juste avant l'entraînement, séance à laquelle nous n'avons pas pu assister, les entraîneurs souhaitant garder leur tactique secrète. Une fois la théorie terminée, place à la pratique. Les membres de l'équipe de football vont enchaîner 2 à 3 heures d'entraînement. Ce moment passé sur le terrain, c'est du temps que les étudiants sportifs ne peuvent pas consacrer à l'étude, contrairement aux étudiants traditionnels qui, eux, sont à la bibliothèque et révisent leurs cours.
Sometimes one takes precedent over the other. Not all the time though. Like I have to find time outside of football to be able to get it done so that it doesn't interfere with football. I mean, most of the time I have to do my homework after class because I mean, doing it before after football, but doing it before football is a little hard because I have class and I have to pay attention in those classes, and I only get like an hour break in between to do stuff. So I mean, I just mostly do it after football.
Kyle sait qu'il ne passera jamais professionnel. Victime de blessures, il manque de temps de jeu. Ce sont donc ses études qui priment. L'obtention d'un diplôme lui permettra de travailler dans le monde du sport comme responsable de projet, directeur des ventes ou attaché de presse d'un grand club sportif.
So right now you are going to the library and stay for like what, 1 hour, 2 hours?
Depends. I mean,
Depends on.
I have to. Yeah. I have an idea of what I have to do, but there might be some stuff that I'm forgetting right now, and I'll probably find out when I go in and look at all the stuff. But yeah, the goal is like 1 to 2 hours maybe, just to get some work done and have some kind of time.
Durant 2 heures, Kyle révise et se met à jour dans ses cours. Aujourd'hui, il prend même un peu d'avance puisque vendredi, il sera en déplacement avec l'équipe et ne pourra pas se rendre en classe. Mais tous les étudiants sportifs ne sont pas aussi assidus. Beaucoup rêvent de passer professionnels, de devenir des stars. Au sein de la Ligue, plusieurs joueurs ont déjà ce statut. Pour Chris Nafisai, producteur chez ESPN, l'une des plus grandes chaînes sportives au monde, la télévision joue un rôle essentiel.
Definitely, and that has to do with us as well. I mean, as putting so many college games on TV and showing so many highlights, we really are making these kids stars. You know what I mean? And there's a good and bad side to that. You know what I mean? Because it does definitely diminish the amateur side of sports. It makes it more of kind of a professional.
Le système aussi a son rôle à jouer, comme l'explique le spécialiste du monde sportif universitaire, David Ridpath.
So if you have that athlete who's a star athlete who's going to score those touchdowns, bring in those millions of dollars, then it's not about educating. It's like, how do we keep them eligible? And that's where things like North Carolina happen. And faculty are just as complicit in this. They develop programs, or that you have soft majors, and all of a sudden you see 80% of a football team taking the same classes, 90% of a basketball team taking the same classes with the same faculty member. That's not education. My issue is social mobility is very important in this world. The best way to social mobility is to be educated. Only 1 or 2% are ever going to go into the pros and make millions of dollars, right? So we have an obligation that if we're bringing these kids into college, that education has to come first. But it doesn't come first when you're paying your coach 18 times more than your president, right? And winning is the most important thing because that winning brings in tons of money. Keeping someone eligible is not the same as educating them, and that's really the original sin, we call it, of college athletics, is one, admitting kids into college who are not ready to be in college. To me, it's okay to admit them. We should do that, but it's criminal to have that person play a sport for 50 hours a week and travel and expect them to somehow be able to succeed academically.
Direction Columbus. Ici, il n'y a pas d'équipe professionnelle de football américain. Tout le monde suit les résultats de l'université locale, Ohio State. C'est l'une des 5 plus grandes des États-Unis avec presque 70 000 étudiants inscrits en 2016, soit 10 000 de plus que la plus grosse université belge, la KU Leuven. Sur le plan sportif, Ohio State possède le 3e plus grand stade des États-Unis avec 105 000 places. C'est là qu'évoluent les Buckeyes, l'équipe de football américain de l'université. Ces jeunes s'entraînent avec une intensité comparable à celle des professionnels et leurs performances sont analysées dans les médias. Mais en plus d'être excellents sur le terrain, les étudiants doivent aussi réussir sur les bancs de l'école. Un compromis difficile, mais pour les responsables des différentes équipes sportives, le jeu en vaut la chandelle.
These young men are learning the merits of time management. They're learning the merits of discipline, the merits of being a team player. They're experiencing things that the average student doesn't get a chance to experience. So yes, it's hard, but it's also very worth it. So a lot of our players, even before they get to Ohio State, they've had correspondence with the media. They've been interviewed by the media because I think, as I was telling you guys on Monday, there's a group of writers out there. There's people that are really, really interested in these really good high school players. And so, people are writing about them. They're taking their photos. They're interviewing them. So these guys come to Ohio State, many of them having done this quite a bit already. And then once they get to Ohio State, we don't immediately put the young guys into a position where they have to do interviews, but they see it. I mean, like a lot of these guys over here, they're watching, they see what's going on here, and they know that their day is going to come when I'm going to call on them. But that day won't ever come until I've had multiple conversations with them about what they can expect to hear, what they can expect to see out here, how we would like them to respond, an above-the-line response, a response that if they read it or hear it a week from now, they're going to be proud of what they said versus not very happy with what they said. So it's a process.
Et comme dans les championnats professionnels, il existe de fortes rivalités entre certaines équipes.
This is the greatest rivalry in American sports. Maybe it's the greatest rivalry in sports. I don't know, the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. A lot of people think it's the greatest rivalry. This right here, guys. So we play this school up north next in 65 days, 17 hours, 8 minutes, 19 seconds.
Et il faut s'imposer face à l'éternel rival car le prestige de l'université en dépend. Une université compétitive remporte des titres et ces titres rapportent beaucoup d'argent. Une équipe de football américain universitaire qui se qualifie pour la phase finale de son championnat touche entre 4 et 6 millions de dollars. À long terme, un titre de champion peut ramener presque 5 fois plus, soit entre 20 et 30 millions de dollars. Ces victoires, elles améliorent aussi la visibilité de l'établissement. Les médias vont s'arracher les droits de retransmission de leurs rencontres, ce qui va rapporter une somme d'argent colossale et séduire de potentiels futurs étudiants. Avec cet argent, l'université va se développer, entamer de nouveaux programmes ou, comme à Ohio State, construire un nouvel hôpital. La victoire est donc essentielle, quitte à contourner les règles.
The University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill is reeling from a scandal involving athletes taking bogus classes.
More than 1,500 students took irregular classes that never met in the African and Afro-American Studies departments.
Those student athletes at UNC Chapel Hill were allowed to take so-called paper classes.
Thousands of UNC athletes remained eligible to play by taking fake classes that fraudulently boosted their grades.
The administrative assistant gave high grades, A's and B's, regardless of the quality of their work. According to the report, the African American Studies Department chair and another staffer ran the program.
C'est donc l'argent qui est à l'origine de ces dérives.
The amount of money in college football now makes it so it becomes somewhat difficult, and they kind of switch those roles, that they're an athlete first and a student second.
Une théorie que confirme notre spécialiste.
We are developing elite athletes who make a tremendous amount of money for TV networks, for the institution, for sponsors, and yet they are ostensibly students in higher education. And I don't have to tell you that being a student in college is very challenging. But when you add on essentially a 40 to 50 an hour job, travel and other things that college athletes have to do, something has to give for the most part. And for the most part, it's usually the academic side. And that's why you see things like athletes being pushed into certain majors. Academic fraud cases and things to keep athletes eligible, because the reward of the money, the reward of winning, and what you see at Ohio State or Alabama, the hundreds of thousands of people that are there in attendance and the millions that are watching on TV, what matters the most is winning and generating that revenue. And that's really the big issue. And that's, what research that I've done is I think that America should still have educationally based sports, but have other options for elite development.
Et cette affaire à l'Université de Caroline du Nord est loin d'être unique. Au total, nous avons recensé près de 80 scandales sur une période de 60 ans et nous les avons classés en 5 catégories. La première concerne les fraudes académiques. Par exemple, falsifier les résultats des étudiants, comme c'était le cas à l'Université de Caroline du Nord. La seconde regroupe les scandales liés au recrutement des joueurs à l'aide de pots de vin, le but étant d'attirer les meilleurs éléments possibles. Ensuite, nous avons les scandales qui concernent les cadeaux faits aux joueurs. Leur statut d'amateur leur interdit de recevoir une récompense pour leur performance. Après, nous avons regroupé les scandales de matchs truqués et ceux de paris sportifs. Puis, il y a ceux liés à l'utilisation de substances interdites comme des drogues ou des dopants. Enfin, la dernière catégorie regroupe les affaires liées à des comportements violents et des abus sexuels, comme à Baylor où 31 membres de l'équipe de football sont accusés d'avoir commis 52 viols en 3 ans. Et durant notre voyage, un scandale a éclaté et fait la une des médias. 3 grandes universités américaines sont accusées d'avoir payé des lycéens pour les attirer dans leur établissement. L'université de Louisville aurait même engagé des prostituées pour convaincre les jeunes recrues. Le principal sponsor de ces 3 universités fait partie du scandale. La firme Adidas aurait donné plusieurs centaines de milliers de dollars à des lycéens en échange de leur signature dans ces universités. Très souvent, les scandales qui touchent le sport universitaire s'étalent sur plusieurs années, et pour cause, le sport est tellement important que les témoins préfèrent se taire.
Is if you stand up and say something about it, people actually turn the tables on you because you're potentially damaging something that's very important to them. You're damaging their basketball program, their football program, their prestige. And nobody wants to hear it. We want to believe that the system is pristine and that it's about the student athlete, it's about academics, and they're playing for the love of the game and the love of the school, and that's not what it's about.
De son côté, la NCAA fait tout pour garder ces scandales secrets. Lorsqu'ils sont dévoilés au grand public, la Ligue n'hésite pas à minimiser les faits, voire même à fermer les yeux. Elle communique peu, uniquement lorsqu'elle y est obligée. Elle a d'ailleurs refusé de répondre à nos questions concernant le scandale de l'Université de Caroline du Nord. Chaque année, rien qu'en football, plus de 15 000 étudiants sportifs tentent de se faire recruter par des équipes professionnelles. À peine 250 y arriveront, c'est seulement 2% du nombre total de joueurs. Une statistique que l'on retrouve dans les autres sports de la NCAA. Les étudiants connaissent ces chiffres, mais peu importe, ils mettront tout en œuvre pour réaliser leurs rêves. D'autres savent qu'ils ne seront jamais des stars de football ou de basketball, que ce soit à cause d'un niveau trop faible, de blessures ou simplement par choix personnel. Alors, comme Kyle, ils décident de continuer leurs études et de construire leur avenir hors des terrains.
My expectations were just to be, I wanted to learn, because I want to get a good job after I graduate and do well in the real world, I guess. So, my expectations, not that they were high, but they were I just wanted to see what was out there for me. I'm hopefully married, hopefully maybe starting a family or something. I do want to have a stable career by then, maybe. I don't know. I do want to be in the world of sports. I do want to be maybe back home, maybe, but I'll end up where I end up. I'll go wherever, but definitely something in the world of professional sports. I hope. I hope that's what happens.